called life, and always excited to be bringing you all of our coverage inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, talking about the wonderful world of sports and football, and of course the NFL and these 32 NFL franchises and everything that they have to offer as we get set to discuss our mock draft here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're going to be featuring Mr. Mike Sofka is going to be joining us here as he always does on Wednesdays between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So we appreciate Mike being with us where sports meets that thing called life as we are hopping into our 2022 mock draft. And I love opportunities like this, and I love the fact that we get to share this with you here today in a very unique and special way. So without further ado, let's bring Mike into the broadcast. Mr. Sofka, we appreciate you being here from Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. How you doing this morning?
Doing great, Dan. This is wonderful. I love draft time. This is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, you know, and we have the opportunity to bring you the draft here this morning and to celebrate with you what's going on, you know, inside of, you know, where sports meets life here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So definitely looking forward to bringing you draft content here and letting people know exactly what we think about how this draft is going to break down and whatnot in the pieces that we have. So I love the fact that we get to do this. I love the fact that we get to, you know, celebrate these moments together and that we get to celebrate this moment now. So let's hop right into it, and let's hop right into our mock draft here as we share it here on the screen. Mike, I'm going to take the odd number, and you're going to take the even number, and we're going to go through round one here in the draft. So for those of you that are watching right now, you can see us inside of our live draft room. We're going to be starting this draft here, and so we have the opportunity to do that here this morning. And I will be taking, like I said, the odds. Mike will be taking the evens, round 1 through 32. And so I have my Jaguars at pick number 1. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been spoken about that they could be taking Aidan Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeaux or Trayvon Walker. Well, looking at the numbers here and having some conversation and being able to watch an interview actually recently here with Kayvon Thibodeaux, and, you know, just overall for me, my thoughts are that Aidan Hutchinson goes number 1 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to make him the pick here for Jacksonville here. They need some help. You could see their needs here, D-line, linebacker, and safety. I would agree with that. I would also say, you know, they could use a little bit of help on the offensive line as well. But I'm going to go ahead and draft Aidan Hutchinson. Kayvon Thibodeaux, you know, I watched him in an interview that he did here recently, and he seems to have some ego and some of that side of things. It could just be nerves. It could be something of that respect, but it rubbed me a certain way. Jacksonville has already dealt with, you know, having guys in the locker room that are very talented, but at the same time can be head cases at times, and I don't want Jacksonville to have to deal with another one of those situations. So, you know, for me, I'm gonna stick with it here, and I'm gonna say that the Jacksonville Jaguars will take Aidan Hutchinson in this one, and hopefully he'll be able to plug and play right away. Mike, what do you have for pick number 2?
Well, pick number 2, I was going to take Aidan Hutchinson because Jacksonville is going to take Trayvon Walker. They're not going to take Aidan Hutchinson. They're going to take Trayvon Walker. But, you know, now that you've taken Aidan Hutchinson, and by the way, Aidan Hutchinson in Detroit's a slam dunk. I mean, he's the most obvious prospect. I don't know why the Jaguars would pass on him. There's a difference in opinion between Trent Baalke and Shad Khan. Khan wants Hutchinson. Baalke wants Walker. So I don't understand the dynamics of how that's going to work out. But if you're taking Aidan Hutchinson, that puts me in a peculiar situation here with Detroit because they need an edge rusher. Okay, but I'm not sure I'm taking another one of these guys here that I like, but that high. I mean, that would be. They don't need it. They don't need an offensive lineman. That would be the obvious pick as far as talent goes. So let me see here. You really threw me for. I thought for sure you were going to tell me Walker, buddy.
Well, you know, I mean, the thing to me is that Trayvon Walker. I know he's risen up the draft boards and whatnot. I know he played for Georgia, but you know, it's come down to the fact that looking at the numbers of it all, and I just feel that Aidan and Kayvon Thibodeaux have the opportunity to, you know, based on what we've seen up to this point, to come in right away and to have an immediate effect. And not that Trayvon Walker won't have an immediate effect. It just seems like Aidan would be the sure bet for me as far as comfort level with statistics and what he has shown up to this point. So I know that it's been Aidan. I know it's been Trayvon. I know at times it was maybe Evan Neal. And so it could be smoke and mirrors, but ultimately I feel that the safer bet is Aidan Hutchinson.
Sure. Well, that puts me, if I'm Detroit at this point, and that's the pick, I'm going to have to either look at Kayvon Thibodeau or I'm going to have to either look at Jermaine Johnson. And I think Thibodeau is more of a freak of nature, in my opinion. I think he's, somebody said he's like a T-Rex in an F-14. So I don't know what that means, but, anybody that describes somebody like that, and this, if you see him play, he's got a great explosion. This guy's who they're going to go with at Detroit if Aidan Hutchinson's gone.
Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau. I also think Detroit could very well trade out of this position and take a quarterback later in the draft, but get some draft capital. I did have them looking at taking Malik Willis. I don't think they're going to take him this high, so I could see them trading down in this situation as well, and then going for somebody later on, going for Malik Willis later on in the first round, but then maybe grabbing another pick or two in the draft, depending on who needs to come up to number 2 in this draft. For me, looking at this at number 3 with the Houston Texans, it's funny because, here you'll see that there's all the different positions that are of need, and the Houston Texans very well put together, and we're using the mock draft simulator, the opportunity to make this our own. We're using this from the PFF, so I do want to give them a shout out to PFF.com for having this opportunity for the mock draft simulator, and I hope they don't mind us utilizing it here today, showcasing you at PFF.com. For me, I agree with you that the Houston Texans do need every single position here, so I find it kind of humorous here that's what they put here. I didn't know you could put every position. That's something I would have done, so I can respect that. I think with them needing every single position, I think they're going to go and protect their quarterback. And, listen, everything's up in the air in Houston right now. They don't know who anything is or who's going to be, who's the quarterback, who's the receiver, who's the running back, who's going to lead the defense. I mean, heck, who's going to punt the ball at this point? So I think they're going to take Evan Neal. I think that, them to have some protection on the offensive line, this is the right pick to take because I think the Jets are going to go for one of my favorite guys of college that I got to cover and speak with during this past season, and I definitely am a big fan of him, so we'll see if Mike goes with him at pick number 4.
Yeah, so you're saying Houston's going to take Evan Neal?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm looking at this. First off, I do want to, remind us that there's 8 teams without a first-round pick this year. That would be the Bears, the Browns, the Broncos, the Colts, the Raiders, the Rams, the Dolphins, and the 49ers. And that means up to 8 teams, and yes, it is 8 teams that have more than one first-round pick. They have 2. Detroit, we just mentioned, they have 2 and 32. Houston, who you just took with Evan Neal, well, they have 13 as well. And then the Jets have 4 and 10. Then the Giants have 5 and 7, and the others are later here. But, I'm thinking if you're going to take Evan Neal, I think the Jets are in a position where they could use an offensive tackle. That would be, a good move. But I think they're not going to be able to help themselves. I think they're going to go out with the cornerback from Cincinnati, your man, Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, and that's who I would have picked for the Jets. I've kind of stayed true with that over the weeks here that, he is going to be the number 4 overall pick. I could see him go to Detroit as well, but, as of right now, this is where he's at. For those of you that are just tuning in, this is the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're here with Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. And, of course, myself, Dan Tortora, a.k.a. DT of Wake Up Call, DT.com. We are bringing you our mock draft round 1 for 2022's NFL draft. And Mike has the evens. I have the odds. So I started off the draft with my Jaguars taking Aidan Hutchinson. Then Mike went with Kayvon Thibodeau. And so we have 2 edge rushers coming off the board from Michigan and Oregon, respectively. And then I picked Evan Neal to go from Alabama to Houston to help out the Texans, who need help everywhere. And then Mike took Ahmad Sauce Gardner, my guy out of Cincinnati, who I've had the opportunity to cover and speak with here recently, and a big fan of Sauce, and I'm happy, and I think he'll do a lot of great things with the Jets, and he's close, so selfishly, it's only a 45-minute plane ride for me to go over there and see him. Next up on the board are going to be the New York Giants. The New York Giants needing a bunch of help in a bunch of different places. I could see Evan Neal going here as well, so this could have been another place for Evan Neal to go for the New York Giants. So as I look at this one, you look at the fact of saying, well, can they help themselves, right? Who is their leading receiver? Who's the guy that they're going to lean on? Will they go past this? But I do think that ultimately they're going to take care of the, either the defensive side of the ball or taking a look at the offensive line. So I'm going to look at some offensive linemen that are available still here. They have Charles Cross and they have Ikem Ekwonu from NC State. And so there's a few different places that they could go here, in my opinion. The New York Giants do need some help on the offensive line. And like I said, I could see an Evan Neal going here. I could see Sauce Gardner going to the Texans. So I'm going to have Ekwonu out of NC State go to the New York Giants at pick number 5. Mike, pick 6 with the Carolina Panthers on the clock.
Yeah, that's definitely the pick right there, either Evan Neals or Ike Ekwonu. And, the Carolina Panthers are in a similar situation with the need for an offensive lineman. They need a quarterback. I mean, let's be straight here. They need a quarterback. I'm not sure if they're going to take a Kenny Pickett this high, or what they're going to do, if they're going to trade down. I think the prudent thing to do here would be to take a tackle, especially if Evan Neal or Ike Ekwonu fell to them. But I think they'll be happy with selecting Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. So I think that's who they're going to end up with if those other two guys are taken.
Yeah, so the Carolina Panthers, in your opinion, going with Charles Cross here out of Mississippi State at pick number 6. That gives us pick number 7. I believe the Giants are probably going to trade one of these picks. They could be keep the 5, trade the 7. So if they do keep them both, then there's obviously a high capital that they could pick up here. If they decide to let it go, then we could, obviously see some moves here being made with some teams that maybe want to trade up and get a quarterback. So I could see this potentially being a trade with the Giants trading down and another team trading up. Maybe a New Orleans Saints, maybe a Pittsburgh Steelers. But if that doesn't happen, then I don't think that the Giants are. I mean, I think obviously there's some good capital here for them. I had them go offensive line in the first one, so then we could take a look here at where they could go after this in this position if they were to keep this. And let's just take them to the linebacker side of things and take a look at who they have at linebacker here. Devin Lloyd out of Utah, Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. I do not think, I don't think necessarily that the Giants are going to keep this pick. But if the Giants were to keep this, they took care of their offensive line. They could look to their edge rusher or their linebacker right now. If we go to the defensive side of the ball and we look at the edge rusher right now, they could go out there and take George Karloftis out of Purdue, or they could take Trayvon Walker. If he's still on the board here, then maybe they go with Trayvon Walker at this pick because, he is one of those guys that has been rising up some draft boards, not on mine necessarily, but if they take this pick, then I have them there. If not, I do see the Giants trading down one of these two picks at 5 and 7 to grab some more draft capital, but for argument's sake, I'll put Trayvon Walker here. Pick number 8, Mike, with the Falcons. I wanted to pick this one because I think I know where they're going, but what do you got?
Yeah, this is an obvious pick for their fans, and I think they're going to lean toward their fans. And I think that's a dangerous thing when you do that because the obvious need here is for a wide receiver, and I think they're going to cave to that. I think the bigger need, because the bigger difference, because I think this is a deep wide receiver class, I think the smartest thing to do would be to take an edge rusher here. Look at Jermaine Johnson. Look at George Karloftis out of Purdue. These are guys that can get to the quarterback, and that's the two things you got to do in this league. You got to protect the quarterback, and you got to attack the opposing quarterback. But I think the Falcons are going to cave to the needs of the team that's obvious and glaring to most NFL fans because chicks dig the long ball. I think they're going to take Drake London here.
So Drake London out of USC, and yeah, I thought they would go wide receiver as well. So Drake London coming off the board for the Atlanta Falcons. That brings us to pick 9, the Seattle Seahawks. And, we're typically used to seeing them lower on the board here, but obviously they get this, and they made the trade with Russell Wilson leaving, which means that they are looking at bringing in a quarterback. There's a lot of different needs that they could get here, but I think ultimately as we take a look at the quarterback situation here, I think that Matt Corral might be higher on the list than some others may think, but I think Malik Willis goes to Seattle, number 9 here. We know that he can run the ball. We know that he can obviously pass the ball. I got to see him live when Syracuse went up against Liberty these last couple seasons, so I think Seattle doesn't have to worry about trading anywhere. Malik Willis falls to them at the 9th overall pick, which brings us to number 10, the Jets' second pick of the top 10.
Yeah, I think this is a situation where they have to make their name on defense here still. I mean, they still have work to do, okay? And with the Jets, if they do end up taking Sauce Gardner right away there, I think this is a situation where they could give him some more help in that secondary there with a Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. I just think they need a lot of help everywhere. I don't think you can go wrong with an aggressive guy who likes to come up, can be that 8 guy in the box. He can come up and make tackles. He can read defense as well. This is a guy that's an impact player right away, Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, Kyle Hamilton going to the New York Jets. And as we see that means the Jets would have Sauce Gardner and Kyle Hamilton right away. And ironically, they went up against each other, Cincinnati and Notre Dame, obviously both on the defensive side of the ball. But, they both had that game where Cincinnati was able to defeat Notre Dame, which ultimately aided Cincinnati in making their case that got them in to the college football playoff this past season. So that would be ironic to see them together, and also would be great for the New York Jets to automatically go from not being that relevant in really any place, any side of the ball in the NFL currently, to having a lot of relevancy in their secondary with Ahmad Sauce Gardner and Kyle Hamilton if they both pan out there, which puts our Washington Commanders on the clock outside of the top 10. The Commanders need a bunch of different pieces here, a lot of different help. They need help on their offensive line, but can they help themselves and not drafting a quarterback here right now? So, where could they go? I don't think Washington has made the best decisions at quarterback. I think that this is a right for the taking move where a team could look to trade up here and try and get into this position and give something to Washington. But I think Washington will go on the offensive side of the ball here, and I'm going to have them on the offensive line, and I'm going to have them take Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa right here at this pick, the center, going to the Washington Commanders, which brings us to pick number 12 in the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, this puts the Vikings on the clock here in an interesting situation because, much like everyone else, they need an edge rusher. So I think that would be their first look here. And, maybe somebody falls to them, but, if none of the other names in edge rusher fall to them, I'm just going to tell them they're going to take George Karloftis out of Purdue. He's an edge rusher, and this guy is somebody who's going to be quick off the ball. They still have Daniil Hunter there in Minnesota, but they need to get something else going there. They need more help on that defensive line. So George Karloftis out of Purdue.
And as we take a look at this here, as we've zoomed in here to our mock draft happening, thanks to PFF.com's mock draft simulator opportunity, Mike and I here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, bringing you our entire 2022 NFL mock draft for round 1. I have the odd picks. Mike has the even. Started off the draft with Aidan Hutchinson, edge rusher out of Michigan, to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Pick number 2, Mike chose Oregon's Kayvon Thibodeau, coming into Detroit from Oregon there as an edge rusher. Then I went with Evan Neal, the offensive tackle out of Alabama, to the Houston Texans. Pick 4, Mike went with cornerback out of Cincinnati, Ahmad Sauce Gardner, to the Jets. Pick 5, I went with Ikem Ekwonu, NC State's tackle that they have there, helping them out on the offensive line side of things at pick number 5. Pick number 6, Mike went with offensive tackle Charles Cross out of Mississippi State to the Carolina Panthers. Pick number 7, which I believe may be traded here, but for now, for the argument's sake, I have Trayvon Walker, edge rusher out of Georgia, going to the Giants as they help their offensive and defensive line with pick 5 and pick 7 here in the draft. In the words of George O'Leary, that is how you win championships. You build from the inside out. You build from the trenches out. And that's what the Giants would do with the 2 picks that I have here. Mike went pick number 8 for the Atlanta Falcons, taking the first wide receiver off the board, Drake London out of USC. Pick number 9, I have the first quarterback off the board, coming out of Liberty, Malik Willis going to the Seattle Seahawks, who need aid now that they've brought in Drew Lock, but I would imagine he's not going to be their guy, and so, or could be their guy for a short time. Malik Willis going there, number 9. Mike has the Jets staying in the secondary, picking safety out of Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton at pick number 10. Pick number 11, I have the Washington Commanders going for the first center off the board out of Iowa, Tyler Lindenbaum. And pick 12, Mike has George Karloftis out of Purdue, the edge rusher going to the Minnesota Vikings, which now brings us back to pick number 13. Well, and that brings us back to the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans, as you can see on here, need help at every single position. So the Houston Texans here, I had them take Evan Neal earlier on in the draft. So at pick number 13, I think the Houston Texans will want to make a splash here. They'll want to do something big here. They'll want to make their team, they'll want to make their fans excited. They made a mistake when they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins, so I see them taking Jameson Williams out of Alabama at pick number 13, which sends us to the Baltimore Ravens on the clock at pick 14.
Yeah, Baltimore needs help on the defensive line. They got 5 guys and 5 edge rushers or defensive linemen who are still free agents. Zadarius Smith ended up going to Minnesota. They desperately need help. I don't see a Trayvon Walker falling this far, but the guys that are available to them are Jermaine Johnson, the edge rusher out of Florida State, or Jordan Davis. Now, I like both of these guys, but I think the interior help is the harder to define, so I think they're going to take Jordan Davis out of Georgia.
So Jordan Davis out of Georgia. Jordan Davis is somebody that I had the opportunity of speaking with here during his time inside of the college football playoff. So a big shout out to Jordan Davis as Mike has him going from the interior part of the line out to the Baltimore Ravens at pick number 14. Pick 15 on the clock. The Philadelphia Eagles need help in a lot of places. And there's a guy that's been sitting up here, and that's Derrick Stingley Jr. out of LSU. And he can help out their defensive back unit. So I have Derrick Stingley going to the Philadelphia Eagles at pick number 15, which takes us to pick 16, Mike. Do the New Orleans Saints pull the trigger on a quarterback?
Yeah, I think they're going to, sit pat right now at quarterback. I don't think that they consider that yes, they need a quarterback. Okay, I want to be clear. But I don't think where they're at and who's available and so forth. I mean, maybe in the second or third round they may look quarterback if somebody falls to them there. But they're going to have to play out the year what they have unless they, just develop somebody or make a trade. Don't forget, there's still opportunities. There's still guys out there. Garoppolo still might be traded. That would be an interesting situation, too. I think the Saints – and, by the way, that was your pick there with Philadelphia. That was their first of 2 in this round. They have 15 and 18. Philadelphia has 15 and 18 here, and the Saints have 16 and 19 here. So that's an interesting group of picks here. I'm going to have to say that they're going to need a wide receiver, and I think that's the biggest need for them. And I'm not sure if they can get past one of these 2 guys, Traylon Burks out of Arkansas. This is a big body guy and a deep threat, or a Garrett Wilson. It'd be interesting to see what they end up doing here. They may also go tackle. There's rumor they're interested in this Trevor Penning guy. But I think the number one overall pressing issue that's glaring right now is wide receiver, and I think they're going to take Traylon Burks.
So Traylon Burks going to the New Orleans Saints. Who's going to throw to him? That's the question. They've been getting, are they going to get rid of this guy, keep this guy round robin and whatnot, and having a bunch of quarterbacks, which together might make one good quarterback, but they have different guys doing different things, but nobody as their actual one, I believe, in my opinion. So Treylon Burks there, though. You think they'll go wide receiver out of Arkansas there. Pick number 17 for me with the Los Angeles Chargers on the clock. They could go one of two ways. They could go to wide receiver or corner. So go to the guy that's catching the ball or go to the guy that's trying to prevent that catch. You got Garrett Wilson out here, and you also have Trent McDuffie. Think about the offense and everything that Justin Herbert's been able to do in a very short time in the NFL, and that zip that he has on the ball and the way that he fought, and oh my goodness, the final game of the regular season, the way that he didn't give up in 4 fourth-down conversions, including a 4th and 10, 2 fourth downs on one single possession. Fantastic play by Justin Herbert that we have seen up to this point. So they could go one of two ways. They could go to Trent McDuffie. They could go to Garrett Wilson. Looking at this right now, I think that ultimately you take a guy out of Ohio State, you throw him to the Chargers, you put him in this situation, and now an already explosive offense gets more explosive in arguably the best division in football in the AFC West. You have Justin Herbert, you have Derek Carr, you have Russell Wilson now with the Broncos, and you have Pat Mahomes. Garrett Wilson going to the Chargers, giving them yet another weapon to throw to as they have changed their receiving core in recent history. This could be a giant burst to a team that already has a lot to be excited about on the offensive side of the ball, which brings us back to the Eagles, but Mike gets this one at pick number 18.
And who did the Eagles select with you at 15? I can't see the board.
Oh, no, that's okay. I had the Eagles went with Derrick Stingley Jr.
Good. Yeah, I like that pick there. I think that's a good pick. I think they're definitely going to go back to a situation where they need a wide receiver. I mean, yeah, they need an edge rusher as well, but wide receiver seems to glare right now off the board. But if you take Garrett Wilson, I think that changes their mindset. I think they're going to have their eyes set on a Garrett Wilson at that point. So I think they're going to flip the script. They're going to go with the edge rusher here. They're going to stay with the defense, and they're going to take Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State.
All right, and Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State, another guy that I had the opportunity to interview and get to speak with heading into this past season. So we have Jermaine Johnson coming out of this one and heading into the Philadelphia Eagles locker room there. Jermaine Johnson II coming from FSU as he transferred in, I believe, so he'll be heading off there, which gives the Saints pick number 19. And you had the Saints earlier on here take just a few picks ago. You had them take Treylon Burks from Arkansas at pick number 16. So we'll go back to it. And I think with you having them take their wide receiver, I think the Saints will now go after their quarterback. And in going after their quarterback, I see the Saints at this point here, they're going to be making a move. And this could be something that could affect a lot of things here, because who are they going to go with? Who do they trust here? Are they going to take a Kenny Pickett? Could he fall? Matt Corral has done a lot of things here. I think that at this point, the New Orleans Saints could very well go quarterback. Or, in a strange turn of events, I believe that they could go elsewhere here, and they could also turn around and go to their offensive line and help their offensive side of the ball. And so for me, I could see them going down here and taking themselves, putting themselves in a situation where they could be taking an offensive tackle. And if they were to take an offensive tackle here, see, there's a lot of capital and there's a lot of opportunity here. And what I see from this is the opportunity for them to do a few different things. And so going offensive tackle-wise in this, we could see them take a Bernhard Raymond out of Central Michigan, a Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. I think the Saints, I want to say that they may be going after a quarterback, and I know I've talked about it a lot, but I do think that there's going to be something that happens here. Now, Pittsburgh could get a little squirrely, and they could trade with the New Orleans Saints, afraid of this pick that could happen, of what they want at pick number 20. But if the Saints don't take a quarterback at this pick, I see them taking Tyler Smith, tackle, out of Tulsa, to round out the top 19 here, right before we get to the top 20. I do think Pittsburgh's going to get their guy, but it could very well go to New Orleans. But, Mike, what do you have for pick number 20?
Yeah, well, Pittsburgh, would have looked offensive line, but they've signed a couple guys here in the off season, and James Daniels and center Mason Cole. But I think they're going to go mostly all defense, regardless of where things land for them. Yeah, they need help up and down the roster here. And again, I can't see the board. Trent McDuffie's still available, right, from Washington?
Yeah, Trent McDuffie's still here.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to get past Trent McDuffie here. They were going to look at offensive line, but they've already taken care of that. The interior lineman, defense, or edge rushers a priority as well, but they're not going to be able to pass on a DB here, Trent McDuffie.
All right, so Trent McDuffie going off the board here, and we take a look at our top 20 picks here in our mock draft here inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour with Mr. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, myself, Dan Tortora, a.k.a. DT, of WakeUpCallDT.com. Inside of this Fantasy Football Power Hour presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, we're bringing you our 2022 NFL mock draft for round number 1. I have the odd picks. Mike has the evens. This is how it shook out. Pick number 1, Jacksonville, Aidan Hutchinson, edge rusher out of Michigan. Pick number 2, Kayvon Thibodeau, edge rusher out of Oregon to the Detroit Lions. Pick number 3, Evan Neal, offensive tackle out of Alabama to the Houston Texans. Pick 4, Ahmad Sauce Gardner, coming out of Cincinnati at corner to the Jets. Pick 5, Giants taking Akeem Ekwonu, NC State offensive tackle. Pick number 6, the Carolina Panthers going with Charles Cross, offensive tackle out of Mississippi State. Pick 7, which I believe may be traded here, but for now, Trayvon Walker, edge rusher out of Georgia, going to the Giants. Pick number 8, Drake London, the first receiver off the board out of USC, going to the Falcons. Pick number 9, Malik Willis, quarterback, first off the board here out of Liberty, going to the Seattle Seahawks, who just gave up Russell Wilson. Pick number 10, Kyle Hamilton, joining Ahmad Sauce Gardner in the secondary of the Jets, which automatically gets some relevancy here with the two gentlemen if they can translate right away. Safety out of Notre Dame going to the Jets. Pick number 11, Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa, center going to the Washington Commanders. Pick 12, George Karloftis, edge rusher out of Purdue going to the Minnesota Vikings. Pick number 13, Jamison Williams, wide receiver out of Alabama going to the Texans. Pick 14, Jordan Davis, interior defensive lineman going to the Baltimore Ravens out of Georgia. Pick number 15, Derrick Stingley Jr., cornerback, LSU, going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Pick 16, Treylon Burks, wide receiver from Arkansas, going to the Saints. Pick 17, Garrett Wilson, wide receiver out of Ohio State, going to the Chargers. Pick number 18, Jermaine Johnson II, going from Florida State as an edge rusher to the Philadelphia Eagles. Pick number 19, Tyler Smith, tackle out of Tulsa, going to the Saints. And Trent McDuffie at pick number 20 out of Washington, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which brings us to pick number 21 with a bunch of different needs. I think if Trent McDuffie fell any farther, we would see him go to the New England Patriots, but they have a bunch of different needs here. Where could they go? They could go to linebacker. They could go to edge rusher, like I said. And, I look at a guy in Nakobe Dean who's sitting out here. I don't think they're going to go this high. They went high on skill players, wide receivers and running backs, and they haven't panned out. And N'Keal Harry that they went with here just a little while ago, and then they also went with a guy that they've already gotten rid of on their team, knowing that the Patriots had already made a move here in recent history to pick up a running back in the first round, and that didn't work out for them. So seeing what they've done in Sony Michel, so seeing what they've done early with skill players and it not panning out, and them typically not doing it, I think that now they will go to the defensive side of the ball and look at a Devin Lloyd or a Nakobe Dean. I think that the Patriots take Nakobe Dean out of Georgia, reigning national champion, which puts the Green Bay Packers on the board. Mike, will they finally get themselves a wide receiver?
Yeah, I think they have to. They have 4 picks in the top 60. They better use 2 of them on a wide receiver. I know it's a deep wide receiver class, but come on. Every year it's the same thing with the wide receiver, and now trading Devontae Adams and losing MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I like Randall Cobb. I like Amari Rodgers. I like our guy Alan Lazard, but They need help at receiver. I don't think they're going to be able to pass on one of two guys here, either Chris Olave or George Pickens. George Pickens out of Georgia, I think, would be the better pick for them. But I think a northern guy is who they're going to go with, a guy who's been playing in Ohio State. That's not too far from that frozen tundra there in Green Bay, comparatively speaking anyway. I think they're going to take Chris Olave out of Ohio State.
Yeah, Chris Olave, I saw that pick happening too with the Green Bay Packers, so can definitely understand that at pick number 22 at wide receiver. Pick number 23 has the Arizona Cardinals on the clock. They need help on that offensive line. You got to protect Kyler Murray for as long as he's there, because apparently, maybe, potentially, with some things that have gone on social media, which has made things kind of interesting here, does he want to be there? So, that's been the question that's really come up here, is this really where he wants to be? And that question could be, maybe they could assist this by getting him an interior offensive lineman by helping to protect him. Now, I do think that the pick that I could be making here, I think that there's a bunch of different guys I could go to here. But for the Arizona Cardinals, for me, there's different guys that have been brought up here. Cole Strange, as well as Dylan Parham, Kenyon Green, Zion Johnson. And so ultimately we could see them go somewhere within this world. I'm going to have the Arizona Cardinals taking Dylan Parham because I believe the Cowboys at pick number 24. I do believe they're going to get the other interior offensive lineman I'm looking at. Mike, what do you got for this?
Yeah, you must be talking about Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. They're going to keep him in the home state there, bookend him with Zach Martin, and this is a done deal. This is going to be great. He's going to be able to start right away, and that's Kenyon Green.
Yeah, and I was thinking Zion Johnson. I was thinking he could definitely make that fit there, as well as he's ranked high. The Buffalo Bills here, they're in a position where they obviously have had some good, arguably the best wide receiver coming out of things fantasy-wise and reality this past season in Stephon Diggs. So that was a great move that they made here in recent history. They have made some other moves to bring some other guys in, and they've helped out their defensive side of the ball by re-signing some players. They've helped out their defensive side of the ball by bringing in some help. So, I think that ultimately here, the Buffalo Bills, I know it says here that they could go wide receiver and whatnot. I don't know if Buffalo's necessarily going to go that way on the clock here. There's some different guys that they could get, but I think that maybe they help out the interior part of their defensive line in this moment. I could see them going a bunch of different ways. I could see them going and grabbing a wide receiver, or there's some guards out there, there's some offensive line help. They could also help out their secondary. So I could see, some other moves being made there. I think, honestly, this is a wide open opportunity for the Buffalo Bills to go and bring somebody in here that can be an immediate impact, and they have a lot of different areas that they can look at. And so I'm going to have them taking my choices here. It's hard to pass on one of the guys that's kind of been left here at this point, but I'm gonna say that the Buffalo Bills will go with Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia. A lot of Georgia players available here, and definitely could be going in the first round here. I see Buffalo, again, going to a lot of different places at this point in time, but that's where I have them for this draft. Pick number 26, Mike, for the Titans. What do you got?
Yeah, the Titans need some help. They could use a right tackle. They could use a wide receiver. They could use a tight end. They cut Julio Jones. They traded for Robert Woods, but he's coming off the torn ACL, and I could see the need for wide receiver. I think the class is deep enough. I think they're going to find something else here. So I think they're going to end up going with a right tackle. I think they're going to go with tackle Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa.
Okay, so going with a right tackle there for the Tennessee Titans here at pick number 26. As you said, a tackle out of Northern Iowa, Trevor Penning, going to the Tennessee Titans, which puts our Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock at pick number 27. So we know that they could use some help on the offensive and defensive line here, and I can't believe that a guy like this could fall to them, but here he is out of Boston College, Zion Johnson, pick number 27, the rich get richer. If he's there at 27, I don't know how Tampa passes on him. I could have had him go a little bit earlier here in the draft. I could have had him definitely going higher in these places. Could go to the New Orleans Saints. I could have had him go into the Arizona Cardinals, and I think that ultimately, looking at how our drafts panned out, maybe he will go to the Arizona Cardinals if he falls to them at that point. But for the argument's sake of where we are right now, 27th overall, offensive guard, Boston College, Zion Johnson, which brings us to Green Bay's second pick of the first round, pick number 28.
Yeah, wouldn't it be something if they went back-to-back wide receivers here after not doing that for so long? I mean, that would just be crazy. If it was me, I would do that. I would take George Pickens here, and I'd have two great receivers here. But I'm not sure that that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to go offensive line here. I think they're going to see more value at wide receiver in the next coming rounds. They will take another one. They're going to go with Tyler Smith, the offensive tackle out of Tulsa.
Oh, and I had Tyler Smith going already. So
yeah, I can't see the board. Where did you take him?
That's okay, no worries. So Tyler Smith coming back to the board here. I had Tyler Smith going to the Saints at pick number 19.
All right, in that case, they're going to switch it up a bit, and they're going to have to go with a lineman here still, I think. Where's my note here?
And so who we have for alignment, we have Bernhard Raymond still out there, Central Michigan, Abraham Lucas. We have Zach Tom, Jamari Saylor.
Zion Johnson, that's the guy I'm thinking.
Yeah, and Zion I just had going here on the board. So Zion going to the Bucks, which leaves the Green Bay Packers. If you're looking at the interior side of things, it leaves Green Bay with some opportunities here at center as well as at guard. And we'll take a look at these opportunities that they'll have on the interior part of the offensive line as we take a little gander here at the interior of the offensive line. Donovan West out of Arizona State. Cole Strange is still there out of Chattanooga. Cam Jurgens, Marquise Hayes, Luke Fortner, thank you, and company.
Yeah, you know what? Being you took Zion Johnson, I was asleep at the wheel there. You know what? Take George Pickens here. You know what? One of them's going to work. 50% of these guys aren't going to pan out. I say go ahead and take George Pickens. This way you're guaranteed one of your first-round receivers is going to pan out for you.
Yeah, which is left now the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock. And the question is, what do? They have back-to-back picks here. And so do they go after a wide receiver? Do they go after somebody that I think could be some help to them and someone who can bring some value to them and maybe help to plug and play? Is a guy that I saw play in college and appreciate him so very much. I know his head coach very well, Tim Lester. Sky Moore out of Western Michigan going pick 29 to the Kansas City Chiefs. What do you have for pick 30?
Yeah, that would be definitely interesting to see them go, back to back. I think they're going to end up with some more help in the secondary there. The defense, they're going to need a guy to come in and play nickel right away. They're going to need a guy that can play safety, can play corner. So this is going to work out great for them. I'm talking about a Daxton Hill out of Michigan. He's a junior, but this is just what they need to plug and play. They're going to find ways for him to contribute right away.
That coming from Mike Sofka, Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. Final two picks of our mock draft round one here for 2022, and I have Cincinnati on the clock. Cincinnati has to protect their golden boy. They have to make sure that they take care of their man under center, and so that is going to put them in a place where they have they can look at the interior part of this offensive line, and looking at the interior part of the offensive line and what they have up to this point, they could take Abraham Lucas, a tackle out of Washington State. Well, there's a few tackles here, but looking at the interior part is where I want to go here. And keep in mind, folks, we have not seen a running back go in the first round here. That is, a sign of the times of the world that we live in when we take a look at some of these things. So we have not seen a running back go, and I don't think you should be surprised by any stretch of the imagination that Mike and I have not look to that. I'm looking to the interior part of the offensive line. And looking at the interior part of the offensive line, we have Donovan West here, available out of Arizona State. We have Cole Strange, Cam Jurgens. And so ultimately, for the Cincinnati Bengals, I believe they're going to keep it Strange and take him out of Chattanooga as their center or guard, could play in there and work on the interior part of the line to help protect Joe Burrow, who has the 32nd pick, will be the Detroit Lions, and Mike Sofka. Mike, what do you got?
This is where they get their other big need. They went defense first. They went with Kayvon Thibodeau in our draft here at the number 2, and now at 32, they're going to go to the other side of the ball, and they're going to address that need at quarterback, and they're going to take Kenny Pickett. I think this makes a lot of sense. He doesn't have to start right away, but he can. And I think he could push, Jared Goff. But I think Goff is going to, be the guy this year. And I think we're going to see him, taking a year and, barring injury or anything. So this is a good pick for them. Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so we take a look at our draft board here, as you can now see it. And I want to thank PFF for their mock draft simulator here, that we had the opportunity to utilize this. So we have our picks right in front of you. Round 1, number 1 overall, Aidan Hutchinson to Jacksonville edge rusher. Kayvon Thibodeau, edge rusher, number 2 to Detroit Lions. Evan Neal, offensive tackle to the Houston Texans. Ahmad Sauce Gardner at 4, corner to Cincinnati. Ekwonu, offensive tackle, NC State, number 5 to the Giants. Number 6, Charles Cross, offensive tackle to the Panthers. Trayvon Walker, edge rusher to the Giants at 7. Out of Georgia. Drake London, wide receiver, out of USC to the Falcons at 8. Number 9, Malik Willis, quarterback, Liberty to the Seahawks. Number 10, Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame to the Jets. Number 11, Tyler Linderbaum, center out of Iowa to the Washington Commanders. George Karloftis, edge rusher out of Purdue to the Vikings at number 12. Jameson Williams, wide receiver out of Alabama. Number 13 of the Texans. Jordan Davis, interior D lineman out of Georgia to the Ravens at number 14. Number 15, Derrick Stingley Jr. to the Eagles, cornerback out of LSU. Treylon Burks, number 16 to the Saints, wide receiver out of Arkansas. Then we have Garrett Wilson, number 17, wide receiver out of Ohio State to the Chargers. Jermaine Johnson, the second, edge rusher out of Florida State to the Eagles at number 18. Tyler Smith, number 19 overall, out of Tulsa, offensive tackle to the Saints. Trent McDuffie, number 20, cornerback out of Washington to the Steelers. Nakobe Dean, 21, to the Patriots, linebacker out of Georgia. Number 22, Green Bay Packers, Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Number 23, Dylan Parham, guard from Memphis to the Arizona Cardinals. Number 24, Kenyon Green, offensive guard to the Cowboys out of Texas A&M. Number 25 to the Bills, Devontae Wyatt, interior defensive lineman out of Georgia. Number 26 to the Titans, out of Northern Iowa, offensive tackle Trevor Penning. Number 27, Zion Johnson, offensive guard, Boston College to the Bucks. Number 28, George Pickens, wide receiver out of Georgia to the Green Bay Packers. Number 29, Sky Moore, wide receiver out of Western Michigan to the Chiefs. Number 30, Daxton Hill, cornerback out of Michigan to the Chiefs. 2 players out of the state of Michigan. Pretty cool there. Back-to-back picks for the Chiefs. Cole Strange, offensive guard, Chattanooga to the Bengals at 31. And rounding out round 1, number 32, Kenny Pickett, quarterback, Pittsburgh, going to the Detroit Lions. That's what Mike and I have here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. Mike, as always, I appreciate it. You and I have a lot coming up here for the upcoming draft, and I cannot wait to bring this to everybody. So I want to thank you for being here with me today, and I look forward to talking with you very soon here where sports meets that thing called life. And as always, thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Dan. I look forward to next time.
All right, talk to you soon. That coming from Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com and myself, Dan Tortora of WakeUpCallDT.com. Appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for being a part of where sports meets that thing called life here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And we have a bunch of thoughts coming in here. Giants, Walker. Greg, yeah, I mean, I thought if Trayvon Walker dipped there, and what did he have here? Giants got to be, what did you say? Giants got to be running to the podium to get Walker here. Got to go Walker. I expect a decent amount of trades tomorrow. Yeah, I do too. Williams is going to be a stud in the league. Eagles got to be targeting a wide receiver. So many thanks to all of you that watched and listened to this, and we look forward to talking with you very soon here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, and as always, find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. God bless, no stress,